Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody who's here in Discord. Welcome everybody who's watching online in any of the platforms. This is our first Q&A session for the AI for Connectivity Hackathon number 2 of this series, Building Resilient Networks. Thank you very much everybody who's here. Hopefully this is going to be a very, very productive and very useful session for everybody who wants to be part of this hackathon. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, I would like to give the floor to Charlotte from the team Giga. We have a couple people from Giga team joining us. So thank you, Charlotte.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us ahead of the second AI for Connectivity Hackathon. It's happening in Barcelona, and we're very excited on behalf of the Giga team to connect with you and answer all of your questions. So I'll just be giving a quick introduction to Giga and our mission. So for those of you who don't know, Giga is a project that was launched in 2019 that aims to connect every school in the world to internet by 2030. Our goal really is to make sure that every young person has access to information, opportunity, and choice. And so we're a partnership with UNICEF and the International Telecommunication Union, or ITU. UNICEF works to protect children's rights and ensure access to education. Our goal really is to make connectivity a key enabler for learning and opportunity. And ITU is the UN agency for digital technologies. So they play a key role in setting global connectivity standards and policies. So crucial partner here as well. And our goal is really to work on building up open source solutions that support public sector connectivity efforts. So this includes school mapping, infrastructure modeling, technical support. I mean, we'll be going a bit more into that. I'm really just giving you a quick overview. Maybe in terms of impact, we've mapped 2.1 million schools worldwide so far. We've helped to increase connectivity to over 14,500 schools, which has benefited about over 7 million students. And we're currently expanding our work to include improvement over public sector networks in general. So we're very excited for next steps. And I'll pass on the mic now over to Emmanuel to bring us into the next part of this Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. So yeah, I mean, if that's not encouraging and it gets you excited to be part of that, I mean, I don't know what will do it. But yes, so as you mentioned, this is the AI for Connectivity Hackathon. So let me explain to everybody just in a couple sentences what we mean by this. So AI, I'm pretty sure most people who are already familiar with the LabLab community are very well aware and familiar with these technologies. And the idea of this series of hackathons is to use these technologies, these newer technologies, overall AI and machine learning, to enhance, automate, optimize different parts of the network development lifecycle. AI can be a very, very powerful tool, and we definitely think that with it you can achieve a lot of very practical and very impactful solutions in the area of connectivity. So, but you know, AI is not just language models. It's much more than that. So we truly believe that this technology or these technologies have a huge potential to really help address this issue. So now let's talk about the hackathons. How does the hackathon work? What's the timeline? How all of these parts right here. We have the event timeline for the second hackathon of the series. So on Monday, February 24th, we have second Q&A session. It's going to happen as well here, 5 p.m. Central Europe time. And then on Friday that week, the 28th, we're going to have the kickoff, which is going to happen both online and on site in Barcelona from 4 p.m. CET. And the hackathon goes from Friday till Sunday, March 2nd. On Saturday, we're going to have some very, very cool workshops. Of course, we're going to stream that. There's going to be online part of it and the on-site for the people that will be joining in Barcelona, which I am personally very excited about. And of course, submission day, Sunday, where you have to submit all the projects that you have been working on during that 3 very intense, probably days. And then on Monday, March 3rd, we'll have the winner announcements at MWC. So I can't wait to see what type of projects we are going to witness during the hackathon. Now, on site, for the people who are interested to join us on site in Barcelona, we're gonna be hosting the event in a very, very cool space, which you can see in the screen, the Entity Data Living Lab. It has awesome views. I can't think of a better space to be creative and be coding a whole weekend. So here's a link to our Hackathon Kickoff stream. It's in our Twitch channel, as usual, so stay tuned. Friday 28th, 4 p.m. CET. I'm going to leave it there a second if anybody wants to scan it. If not, again, it's our usual LabLab AI Twitch channel. Now, let's go real quick over judging criteria. Judging criteria for the different projects of the hackathon is divided in 4, which is application of technology, how effectively you use the technology that you're integrating into your solution. Of course, complexity plays a huge role in this aspect. Business value, which also translates to impact. So solution. Of course, you are looking for influence, and of course, the presentation transmit the message of your solution, how you're solving the problem, which problem are you solving, why the way you're solving this problem matters. So, of course, relevancy to Giga's problem statement, and this is very important, and I'll get to it in a second, implementing open source technologies. As Charlotte mentioned earlier, we make huge emphasis in open source, the use of open source technologies. So let's define real quick what open source is. I'm pretty sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with the concept. But open source means that the code is publicly available, everybody can use it, modify it, or share it. There's different types of open source. There's open source software, data, AI, content. And some key considerations that you have to keep in mind when working with and creating open source technologies are things like licensing. There's many different types of licensing that fall under open source, but the restrictions differ between them. So getting some information on this, it's always very, very useful. So ensure that your project has an open source license and preferably the AGPL version 3. Make sure that your repository is public. All code, both backend and frontend, must be open in a public repository, preferably GitHub. The dependencies, which is super, super important, that I know a lot of people often don't think about when they're working with open source, is that the dependencies also need to be open source in order for your project to be open source. So ensure your dependencies are open source and they have open source licenses. And of course, best practices of building open source projects is add a very well structured and informative README file So ensure your README file has a structure as below, which includes what is your project about, the development requirements of your project, installation guidelines for anybody who would like to try it out or use your project, contribution guidelines, how to contribute and who has contributed to this, which license your project falls under, and contact info in case anybody would like to reach out. So these are the hackathon prizes. There's going to be cash prizes as well as the opportunity to secure a spot in exclusive 6-week Giga and LabLab Next incubator program. The prices are $3,000, $1,500, and $500 US respectively for first, second, and third place. And as mentioned before, the winners will be announced at MWC 2025 on Monday. So, without further ado, let's start with this Q&A session. And to help break the ice a little bit, I know most of you already have probably some questions, but let's do a small icebreaker, a very, very simple coding challenge. So for those who can't really see the screen, in case you can, remember to click the stream that's running so you can make it larger. But the idea is that you're giving a function, one in Python, one in JavaScript, that checks the internet connectivity of a school. But there's a bug. So can you spot the bug? In the screen now you can see both code snippets. And now Justina, if you could help us. There you go. Thank you very much. Now in the chat there is a poll for you to choose an answer about this question. So let's give everybody a minute or two to really read the problem and see which answers we get. I see there's one vote. Come on. Don't be shy, people. I'm pretty sure you can. If you don't know coding, take a guess. You know, we're here to learn. So there you go. Now I see more people voting. I see there's 28 of us here, so there's some people who still haven't given it a try. Great, I see more people are voting. Okay, so I'm gonna leave the problem on the screen a couple more seconds. Make sure you vote, and then in the meantime, you can start thinking about which questions do you think would be worth for you to ask right now to really help you get going for these hackathons. So feel free to start dropping the questions. We'll answer them as soon as we're done with this. Awesome, I see more people. Conrad, you can actually click the option to vote in the poll that Justina was so kind to share. Okay, so are there any questions regarding the hackathon? Any questions about the technology, about what type of projects you could build? This is a great opportunity. We have with us Ivan, which is part of the team from the Giga team. Sorry. So you have firsthand a very, very good resource to ask questions about this topic. Ivan, I don't know if you would like to introduce yourself in a couple sentences so everybody knows you. I'm pretty sure some people already knows you from the previous event, but I think it would be very useful. What do you think?
Sure. Thanks. My name is Ivan. I'm the applied science lead at Giga. And basically what we do in the applied science team is data science and AI research. And I'm here to answer as best as I can your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. So any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat, which is to the right. Um, in the meantime, I have a couple questions that maybe I can ask you, Ivan, and it might be useful for some people. So how does Giga, if of course, uses AI in its work, and how can their projects contribute to this?
Sure. So we use AI in different applications and different AI technologies. For instance, one of the core things that we do is to use deep learning with satellite images to try and detect schools in countries where we know some of the locations of the schools, but not all of them. So we use those locations to train a deep net, and then use it to predict potential school locations in other regions in the school. That's one thing. We also use combinatorial optimization to plan and optimize infrastructure layout for connecting all the schools of a country. And we're doing also works with what I like to call classic machine learning. And these are mostly advocacy or procurement focused questions, like trying to predict whether a school has electricity or not, whether the school is connected or not, what's the impact of connectivity on educational outcomes, and that sort of thing. So it's basically using geospatial variables and classic machine learning algorithms to try to answer these questions.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just want to add a little bit that it's always good to remember that there's a lot that you can do with AI. You know, AI is a very broad umbrella term. Deep learning, machine learning, classical machine learning, like you mentioned, are still very powerful tools. I mean, deep learning is very, very popular right now, but there's a lot that you can do. Of course, the idea is to be able to leverage data, which, by the way, we have prepared, and we will make accessible very soon some very useful resources for you to start to get ready or thinking about how could you use this data or these different resources to leverage AI to build solutions that can help this problematic. So yeah, there's another question, which is actually something I will be answering it, and it's what kind of AI models or tools can we use during the hackathon? And going along the lines of what I was just saying, you can use any type of technology as long as it's open source. Very, very important to make sure it's open source. And that, of course, it brings some value to your solution, because we often see in the case where you're trying to implement a technology that's maybe just very popular, but it does not really serve a purpose within your solution. So it's always important to know when to use what technology. So any type of AI models, technologies, or tools are okay to use as long as they are open source, of course. There's somebody asking how much people will be there in person in Barcelona. I'm not sure if I have a exact number, but hopefully quite a few of you will be joining us. Maybe somebody can help me and write me a rough number, but as far as I remember, there's hopefully, I believe. Well, no, actually, I'm not gonna say any number. I'm gonna ask my colleagues to let me know what was the capacity of the venue, so I don't remember from the top of my head, and I'll answer this in 1 second. What will be the output from this hackathon? I'm gonna turn that to you, Ivan, but more like, what would you like to be the output of this hackathon? What would you like to see? Are there any projects that you would be particularly interested in seeing?
I think I'd like to be seen like a well-rounded projects. That's this is so broad and so important. we're looking for projects in sort of the procurement space, how AI can help with automating parts of the procurement processes, but also in infrastructure and network planning and sort of resource allocation optimization of existing networks. So we're looking for many things, but I'd like to see well-rounded projects, and by that I mean projects that have everything we're asking for, which is on topic, open source, AI used in the right manner, and clear code repositories, clear videos, well explained presentations with technical concepts, and demos that are good to get an idea of the submission, application, or where that application can go in the future. So really, that's what I'm expecting. I'm hoping to get.
Yeah. You mentioned there's a lot of different areas that these projects can cover. Recently, you and I have had a short conversation about this, but just so everybody knows also. There's many different areas of the life cycle of the network development that you can target when building a solution. It can be from procurement, anything that helps facilitate the starting of these projects, so to speak, because we're talking about a goal of building networks in countries where, for example, requirements can be different in all of these, and understanding all these legal frameworks and financial frameworks per country, it's something that's very time consuming. So it could start from solutions that address that to, of course, things that are inherently connected to the functioning of the networks and the deployment of the networks themselves. Okay, let me see if there's more questions before I keep. Somebody's asking if there's a certification. Yes, you do get a participation certification in a form of a nice file that we send to you with your name. But that's about it in terms of certification. I'm not sure if this is a question. Let me read it. It says, like in connectivity, there is connecting people based on health, sharing their health every day so that people know symptoms and given feedback, idea sharing. So I'm not sure if that was a question. Aditya, or I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Yeah, I guess you're right, but within the context right now, we're focusing a bit more on telecommunication networks. So yes, are counter AI projects cool to view in theoretical AI malwares? So Conrad, I mean, if you could expand a little bit on that question, I think it would be easier for us to answer. I'm not sure if I got it correct. So let me move to the next one, and then just if you could expand on that, definitely we can get to that in a second. There's somebody who's looking for a team. Let me read it, and I guess this is a bit for you, Ivan. So let me read what it says.
Yeah,
Hi,
Emmanuel.
You read? Yeah.
I've read it. I don't know if you want to
Okay.
read it for everyone's benefit, but it's pretty long, so it might take
Yeah.
too much
Yeah,
time.
if you read it, perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's what we're looking for. So I know we're an initiative that is about connecting schools to the internet, and therefore the final goal is to improve education and opportunities of the children at those schools. But this hackathon series is about networks, and everything that is within the life cycle of connecting a school to the internet. So we would like to focus on that, and not I would say not something that is a cool idea that you can sort of redirect to somehow be connected to a school that's not on topic for us. So just in general, let's try to focus on the network part of things.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yes, actually, I had gone through the whole question. So great that you had read that. And yes, remembered, like I guess I mentioned a couple minutes ago, that the goal or the topic is network connectivity. So let's try to focus on that. There's really a lot of things that one could do. And if you have questions, I mean, right now it's the moment to ask. So definitely great opportunity to check out if your idea is maybe suitable for this hackathon. If not, like I mentioned, there's really a lot of things that you can do, especially the with the huge amount of technologies that are available to you nowadays. Somebody's asking, how does sustainability development contribute to the establishment of a resilient network? Ivan, would you like to answer that?
I mean that's pretty vague, but I would say that it doesn't. But what you want is to establish both resilient networks and in a sustainable way, and within sort of the concepts of sustainable development, in terms of looking at places where it's most needed, in like with green energy, saving the environment, and et cetera, right? But I don't think one thing contributes to the others. We want to achieve both things at the same time.
Awesome. I see Conrad told us a little bit more that he means about protecting connectivity networks from AI-powered bugs. I'm still not sure if I get it. So I would ask you a little bit also to expand on what you mean by that. Maybe you can share with us what you want to build, what's the project you have in mind. I see there's some more people asking questions.
I can give my thoughts about it. I would say technically it might fit, but that's not something that we will be very excited about. Because, well, the one thing that's a generic thing, it does not apply to schools or public sector networks. And on the other hand, it's a bit like we're trying to connect schools that sometimes they don't even have electricity, and it feels like sort of like the super last thing that you would be worried about at that point. But again, it feels like too generic. I'm not sure how it advances our goal to sort of connectivity and resilient networks for public sector. But I guess that technically it might fall inside the track.
So I guess the question was about using AI to power like cybersecurity projects, right? Like to ensure safety of a network. So yeah, I think the answer Ivan just gave is very useful in terms to like painting a picture of what the hackathon is about. Sure, it's about networks. Sure, it's about connectivity, but it's always important to keep in mind Giga's mission, which Charlotte described very, very nicely at the beginning of this session. And with that in mind, think, what can I build that really helps get there? Mm-hmm. We have one question on Twitch, which I will be reading right now, so everybody can listen to it. Let me check it out 1 second. Okay, so it says, do we need to use machine learning versus just Gen AI? Not really. It's not a versus situation here. You're free to use both generative AI and machine learning, which sometimes are overlapping. To build any solution that, like I mentioned before, brings value towards the goal, or to bring connectivity to the different schools, or to help create resilient networks. There's another question, but we also answered this. It's the same about sustainability. And there's one more question here in Discord. AI-powered network performance monitoring and resource allocation. So I believe we saw quite a few projects like that during our first hackathon. So Ivan, I would change the question to, seeing that we saw many AI-powered monitoring projects, what did you think these projects lacked, or what would you have like them? What would you have them like? Well, what would you have like for the projects to include to be a complete all-round solution in like network performance monitoring, but powered by AI?
I think several things. I feel like we had some of these submissions that might have been sort of adapted from previous submissions, and maybe the relationship with public sector networks was added like in the very last minute, and then this breaks a little bit the flow of the video and the presentation and the demos. So that's one thing, and then I guess we would have to like keep in mind what might be the issues that you're trying to solve when you're connecting a public sector building like a school, especially in remote areas. Like if that, it needs to be done from that point of view, I would say. So that's what I would expect. So you have to build it with that in mind, and not just monitoring, but trying to see what the issues might be. And so think of it from the start of the project, and not take something that already exists and just add like the link to public sector that's going to look like sort of out of context a bit. And then also resource allocation. I think it's a good idea, but let's try to get submissions that make sense altogether, and not just do lots of things that are like sort of like separately, and then we probably end up not doing any one of them really well because we're trying to put too many things that are a bit separate, right? So let's try to have something that's cohesive and that makes sense.
Yeah, to add to that, it is true that we often see projects that are repurposed to fit the narrative of the different hackathons, while reusing a project is not like inherently negative, because I mean open source kinda it's built upon that functionality. But the point is, like Ivan said, to make something that makes sense, not just repurpose something for the whole purpose of participating. And often we also have seen projects that try to be an all-in-one shop, which even though sometimes that is a valid and useful solution, many, if not most of the cases, it ends up being something that really doesn't make sense to put together. So different parts of a problem try to be solved by the same solution, which does different things. I don't know if I'm getting my point across, but it is important to have a clear problem statement and a clear solution that really makes sense with your problem statement. Like I mentioned, there's the network development lifecycle is quite big, so there's a lot of potential targets to tackle when building this type of solutions. From using data like demographic data or terrain data, you can use AI or machine learning or deep learning, which is something similar to what Ivan described they're doing, to solve different projects like optimal node placement, or you mentioned resource allocation. Sure, you can optimize resource allocation in a lot of different stages of the like network development. Or we also were discussing earlier about resource allocation in terms of assets that already exist but could be better allocated, right? So I think there's a lot out there to really do. Sure, monitoring is great, but as I mentioned, we've seen quite a few projects about monitoring. So if you want to go towards that, go for it, but just make sure it's something that makes sense. I see there's some other questions, so I'm gonna pause real quick. Ivan already covered one. Also, David is helping out. Thank you. There's in the chat here in Discord in case you missed it. Let me check if there's some questions in Twitch as well. I think not. Okay, I see one more here. How can connectivity work minus sustainable energy in rural places? I think that's a great question. I'm gonna give the floor to Ivan in a second, but I think big part of the idea is that you help us answer that question. But Ivan, do you have any thoughts about this question?
Sorry, I actually don't really understand the question. What do you mean minus sustainable?
So if I understood correctly, is how do you get connectivity in a situation where there's not more than sustainable, but both stable and sustainable energy sources? So I guess rural places often lack stable electricity and things along these lines, right? So how can connectivity work in these scenarios?
Yeah, it's a good question, and tools that can help us figure out how to do that. I mean, the easy answer is solar panels, right? But tools that can help us figure that out and sort of figure the best configuration of solving these issues. That's something that's welcome. I would say in general, we've discussed a couple of potential projects, whether they fit or not. There's things that might fit, and towards being awarded the prizes and being winners. I'd like to say that of course we expect what I said before, well-rounded projects with all the components that we're asking for, and then among those, there are things that might fit, and there are things that might get us more excited than others. And I would say, anything that really helps us to end of the day in the future connect the schools that are hard to connect. That's what's going to excite us the most, right? Connect them and maintain that meaningful connectivity through time.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned, I mean, the whole goal of this is to tap into your creativity to answer this type of questions, which is the statement of the overall goal. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Maybe here, maybe in Twitch, people that are watching us online, feel free to leave your comments in either platform. We're keeping an eye, so we will answer them. Anything else? Okay, I don't see any questions. Let's give it a minute or so. Guys, it's now or never. The next after this Q&A part of the Q&A, we're gonna talk to you about the how to get involved, how to join the hackathon, next steps, and share a little bit more information. So I really encourage you to ask your questions now. Let's see the results of the poll. So we had quite a few votes. I think the same people voted in all of them. Let me see. So for poll number 1, we had as the most, and actually let me go real quick back to the problem. So the answer the most popular answer was that the error handling is too vague. So, Justina, if you can write in the channel what was the right response. In this case, people selected B. Yes, correct. That was the correct answer. Nice. For how can we improve it? The most popular answer was answer number C, check response awk instead of status codes. Apparently, the response was A, better error handlings. Okay. And for how can AI help check school connectivity, the most popular answer was predict network failures using data. There's one that was generate memes to distract users. I'm pretty sure AI can do that. But indeed, the correct answer was A. It can predict failures before they happen. So that was the results of the polls. If you answer, great, good for you. If not, now you learn 3 new things. Awesome. So I don't see any other questions. Let me do one last check on Twitch. Human, if we have any questions in Twitch, let me know. If not, I think we can move forward. So last chance. Any other questions? No? Okay. So let's go back to sharing the presentation in Twitch. And let's first of all, thank you, Ivan. Your input was very, very useful. I think they now have a better idea of what we're looking for, what solutions could really get, the team excited, could bring a lot of value, which I think it's one of the most important things that you need to know when you're joining a hackathon, right? So thank you. Now let me walk everybody through how to get involved. First, we're gonna be running a team matchmaking session online. The registration is open from now. It will I think it will close on the 20th. And there's going to be a second round of matchmaking on the 24th until the 27th. What's this matchmaking? We'll try to help you find teammates, of course, that align with your goals, your expertise, so you can have a well-rounded team. And you can, build something cool. Can you participate solo, which is a very, very common question that we get? Yes, you can. Teams are fine from 1 to 6 participants. Unfortunately, there cannot be more than 6 participants. We have had, sometimes there's teams that want to be 8 people. What do you do then if you don't want to leave your 2 buddies alone? Well, what we usually suggest is do 2 teams of 4 and compete against each other, right? Use that extra notch to build something super, super cool. But yeah, from 1 to 6 people are okay to participate. How do you contact mentors? How can you ask questions if it's not during this Q&A, which again, we'll have a second Q&A, which we invite you to join. But mentors are available throughout the event and before in the channel, specific channel for the event, which is AI for Connectivity. I believe it's the channel name. It's here in Discord. If you're in Discord, you can see it on your left side. And you can tag mentors and Giga mentors on Discord for questions related to the hackathon. We have technical and business mentors and some telecommunication advisors. So feel free to drop your questions there. Mentors will answer as soon as possible, and they will be active throughout the event to answer all your questions, to help you, to make sure if you want to check if your project is good for the event. Always good to ask a mentor. And lastly, I would like to invite you to join Giga's open source community in Discord, so you can become an early contributor to all these impactful projects on connectivity, and of course, stay on the loop about all the opportunities to build, create, and make a difference with Giga. In there you have the big Discord, the big QR code, which is their Discord server, and their repository as well, if you want to check out what they have been working on lately. So, thank you very much. For those who are interested, remember to go to lablab.ai, find the hackathons and the AI for Connectivity Hackathon number 2, and enroll. Of course, if you would like to join us in Barcelona, that would be amazing. We're going to be more than happy to welcome you there. We're going to be there myself, some other people from our team, so definitely a great chance to meet people from the LabLab AI community, other builders, of course, people from the Giga team, and you can also join us online if you can't attend. And again, we can't wait to see what you will build in this super exciting hackathon. So once again, thank you everybody who was here. Thank you everybody who was watching online. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Charlotte. And of course, like always, thank you, Human and Justina, for the support. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the Discord channel for AI for Connectivity. And have a good night, morning, afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.